Coming up on today's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast, there's things in life that are really important and can change a person's perspective on life forever. And then there's everything else. That's coming up on today's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast, Friday, January 20th, 2023.
Just win. Just win. Just win. Just win.
The autumn wind is a raider, pillaging just for fun. He'll knock you round and upside down and laugh when he's conquered and won. And won. And won. And won. And won.
And welcome in, Raider Nation, to another edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast. Thanks so much for making the show your first listen each and every day. Remember, you can find the Locked On Raider podcast free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. Thanks to my man Ari. Does a great job each and every day making sure we're up on YouTube. At Ari Produces on Twitter. You can check him out. Again, he does a great job, and we thank him very much. Today's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. They'll help you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedon. NFL. Got a lot to get to on today's show. Here in segment number one, want to kind of go over news and notes of the day, stuff that I gathered from Thursday throughout the NFL, and some stuff I got from my radio show, Unnecessary Roughness, Raider Nation Radio 920. Off top, found out about some international games in 2023. The NFL announced that the Bills, the Titans, the Jaguars, Chiefs, and the Patriots will all play international games during the 2023 regular season. The Jaguars play at Wembley Stadium in London. Bills and Titans will also be in London, but they'll at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and then the Chiefs and Patriots will play in Germany. So what does that mean for the Silver and Black? Well, they have away games with the Chiefs, obviously, and the Buffalo Bills. So the good thing is the Raiders may play internationally in 2023, but it won't affect their home games. So there's been times where they've played internationally, they played overseas, and it affected their home games. And so Raider Nation felt kind of slighted, like, hey, wait a minute, hold on, don't take a home game away from the Silver and Black. Well, they would be the away team. So they may make a trip to Germany. They may make a trip to London in 2023. Obviously, we do not know yet, but we do know that they play the Bills and the Chiefs on the road in 2023, and those potentially could be games internationally. So that's something to pay attention to. Also, on Thursday, we found out about Tom Brady and his TB12 treatment in Las Vegas. Well, what does that mean? Well, of course, there's a lot of conversation about Tom Brady and the chances of him being the Raiders' next not head coach, but quarterback under head coach Josh McDaniels. Is he going to play? Is he going to come to Vegas? Is he going to be that guy? A lot of Raider Nation doesn't want him to be that guy. Well, on Thursday, which happened to be the 21st anniversary of the Tuck Rule game, we all found out that the Wynn Las Vegas, the partner of the Raiders, announced a partnership with Tom Brady and TB12. Guests can now book an appointment with the TB12 body coach for one-on-one instruction in the TB12 method, the regimen that sustained Tom Brady's championship-level play. It goes on to say TB12 body coaches exclusively at Wynn Las Vegas. If you've ever admired the exceptional play of seven-time Super Bowl champion Tom Brady, you can now access his game-changing system of wellness principles only at Wynn Las Vegas. TB12, the revolutionary performance and recovery method pioneered by Brady and his body coach Alex Guerrero, has partnered with Wynn to offer sessions with TB12 body coaches exclusively in Las Vegas at the fitness center at the Encore. Now, I say that doesn't mean that Tom Brady is going to be the quarterback for the Raiders. But, you know, it's one of those situations where the guy's family is really all, in the Florida area. Obviously, he just played at Tampa Bay, and now all of a sudden he's sealing this deal in Las Vegas at the Wynn. Now, again, that does not mean that he's going to be the Raiders quarterback in 2023. It's not meaning that I'm pounding the table for him to be the Raiders quarterback in 2023. I'm just saying that he now has business in Las Vegas. He has a business that has his name attached in Las Vegas. And I bring this up because a year ago, when the whole Davante Adams conversation was going up, I was at the Treasure Island. The TI is what we call it, the Golden Circle Sportsbook. I was doing my radio show, and somebody, a realtor, matter of fact, texted in and said, I just sold a house to Davante Adams here in Las Vegas. He's going to be a Raider. And it wasn't because they said he was going to be a Raider. It was the fact they said, well, he's going to be a Raider. It makes sense because I just sold him a house. And I thought, no big deal. People buy houses in Vegas all the time. People have summer homes. People do business in Las Vegas. People like to come to Las Vegas. So that doesn't mean that he's going to be a Raider. Well, Raider Nation, as you know, now that it's a 1 year later, 100 catches, 1,500 yards, and 14 touchdowns, Davante Adams is all Raider, right? So, again, not saying that means that Tom Brady is going to be a Raider because he has this deal now in Vegas, but he does have this deal now in Vegas. So, something to pay attention to for sure. Now, that's not the only quarterback that's been, kind of intertwined with Las Vegas. The other veteran quarterback that's really good, that has ties to the team, not because he grew up a fan of the team, not because he said he wants to play for the team, but he has a wide receiver that he played with for a very long time that now plays for the team in Davante Adams. Obviously, that's Aaron Rodgers. A lot of people have asked me what I thought about Aaron Rodgers. How come the Raiders just don't go and trade for Aaron Rodgers with Green Bay? And I kept thinking, nah, not with that contract that he has, because it's like $40 million in dead money. So I don't think that any team's going to want to take on $40 million in dead money. But then he was on the Pat McAfee show. They asked him if he could still play at a high level. He said not only could he play at a high level, he could play at an MVP level if the situation was right. Is the situation Green Bay or somewhere else? It could be somewhere else. So, of course, that got everyone going and thinking, yeah, he's open to going somewhere else. And maybe he is. Maybe he doesn't even want to play. Maybe he returns to Green Bay. No one really knows. But if you haven't heard what he had to say on the Pat McAfee show, here's about 30 seconds of him after he was asked if he could play at a high level still.
Do I still think I can play? Of course. Of course. Can I play at a high level? Yeah. The highest. I think I can win MVP again in the right situation. Right situation, is that Green Bay or is that somewhere else? I'm not sure. But I don't think you should shut down any opportunity. Like I said, during the season, it's got to be, both sides, like actually wanting, to work together moving forward. And I think there's, more conversations to be had.
So that was Aaron Rodgers on Pat McAfee. So, of course, that got the wheels rolling in my head like, okay, let me at least do my due diligence. So I had Peter Bukowski, who's the host of the Locked On Packers show. He was on my radio show on Thursday, Unnecessary Roughness, Raider Nation Radio 920. We had a good about 20, 25-minute conversation, and I asked him multiple questions about Aaron Rodgers and just kind of what his gut feeling was with what he was going to do, how long this was going to linger out. And then I straight up asked him, well, okay, I know you're not a contract expert or anything, but knowing what you know, just the kind of the basic, gist of the contract, do you think what he's owed right now and the dead money that it would be on the Packers cap, is that tradable? Here's what Peter Bukowski had to say.
It is, and in fact, if you look at the contract, I'm not going to bore your listeners with like the accounting of it all,
right.
But $40 million in dead cap this year if the Packers trade him. The reason it goes up next offseason, if the Packers keep Aaron Rodgers, they have to keep him by triggering an option bonus that's almost $60 million, but you get to spread it out because it's a bonus, right?
Right.
And so his cap hit for the Packers this year, if he's on the team, is 31. It's 40 if you trade him. But if you keep him and then try and trade him next offseason, it's 70 plus million in dead cap because of this option bonus. If you trade Aaron Rodgers, the team who gets him is getting a crazy friendly cap situation. I think it's something like 15 million on the cap for a team that trades him.
Oh, wow.
Like the idea that you're not going to get premium draft capital for Aaron Rodgers when it's only going to cost that team $15 million or whatever is cuckoo bananas crazy. Like it is, if Aaron Rodgers hits the market, he will get an absolute haul. So it's tradable for a team that wants to acquire him, A, and B, it actually makes financial sense for the Packers to trade him now. Even if $40 million is a huge cap hit, it is dead cap. You're accelerating it all on this dead cap this year, whereas next year it is much more punitive if he retires or you have to trade him. So it actually makes sense. And guess what? A quarterback on a team that he was with his whole career just ate $40 million in dead cap to deal him. The Falcons just did this with Matt Ryan, and They got less for him than the Packers will get for Aaron Rodgers if they decide to trade him. So yes, it is a contract that is workable on the Packers end, and it is a big yes that it is a contract that is workable for a team acquiring him. That money is incredible for whatever team acquires him.
Well, now you continue to open up cans of worms for me. I mean, you got me thinking he's going to the Jets. Now you got me thinking he can go pretty much anywhere in the league as long as, a team really wants him and, has some pieces that he would like. And, of course, it brings me back to the Raiders, who he has Davante Adams here in Las Vegas. So let me ask you this. What, in your mind, do you think is realistic draft capital that the Packers would be looking for in return?
Well, let's start with what is it, number 7?
Yeah, number 7.
I mean, I asked some media friends of mine, like, number 7 for Rodgers, straight up, like, who says no? And I think the Packers would ask for more than that. Like, how about number 7 and Darren Waller? The Packers have been trying to trade for Darren Waller for like 3 years. And like, that's a deal that I think the Packers would do. It's a deal that I personally would do. And if I'm the Raiders, I would do it. Like, the chance to get those two guys together again with Josh McDaniels. And I feel like it bears repeating, Q, when the Packers were in a search for a new head coach when Mike McCarthy was fired, McDaniels was one of the guys Rodgers was really interested in having come to the team. And he made it to the second interview round, but was never really seriously considered by the Packers. I think Rodgers was probably a little miffed by that. I think he would relish the opportunity to go play for Josh McDaniels, a guy who helped Tom Brady win all those Super Bowls. Remember, this is the quarterback that Tom Brady once told, I can't remember if it was a teammate or a coach, that if Rodgers played in the Patriots system, he would throw for 7,000 yards. Now, that's probably not actually what would happen.
Right.
But with Davante Adams, with the weapons that team has, and Josh McDaniels as head coach, like, if you're Rodgers, that's a really attractive situation. And if he does come to the team and say, I think that the best thing for everyone is for me to be traded, like, the Packers already clearly have a working relationship with the Raiders. It was reportedly close that Waller was going to be included in that package originally, and even on a new contract, it's not prohibitive for that to be a part of it. Like, number 7 and Waller for Rodgers. Let's call it in the league right now, Q. I'm ready to do it.
So there you go. There's Peter Bukowski saying that, yeah, his contract is very tradable. Matter of fact, if they're going to trade it, go ahead and trade it now. So I guess you're saying there's a chance, and a lot of people have said, Q, you haven't said what quarterback you want to see under center in 2023. Is it going to be Tom Brady? Is it going to be Jimmy G? Is it going to be Jarrett Stidham? Is it going to be a rookie quarterback? Is it going to be other? And so I haven't really had an answer because I really don't know. I'm not a big fan of Tom Brady being an under center because of his age. And I know that the offensive line is at a struggle, and I know the defense is definitely at a struggle. Both of those areas, regardless who's the next quarterback, needs to be addressed. I don't think you're going to win a lot of games if the offensive line doesn't get improved and the defense gets much improved. I don't care who's under center. I don't think you're going to win a lot of games. But, if I'm picking a quarterback and I have to pick between Brady, Rodgers, Jimmy G, Stidham, or a rookie quarterback, I'm picking Rodgers. And the one caveat is I'm picking Rodgers if the money could work, if the Raiders can make it work financially, and they don't have to give up a ton of draft capital to get him. And what I mean by not a ton, how they got Davante Adams, they gave up a first and a second round pick in the 2022 draft, and they were done with it. It was done, game, set, match as soon as the draft was over in 2022. It was no lingering on till this upcoming years. No, well, here he's got a first round pick in 2022, first round pick in 2023. None of that. It was all done after one single draft. So I was good with that. If they can get it done, do something like that. And, Peter even mentioned the number 7 overall pick and maybe Darren Waller. If that was what it is, I don't want to part ways with Darren Waller, but to get the signal caller, you might have to do something like that. So I believe I'd be on board with that. I think that that's probably the best option, at least in the short term for the Raiders, with the idea that you have maybe a Hendon Hooker who will be a later round pick sitting behind Jarrett Stidham being the backup, the immediate backup, and then having a young guy behind him learning. Maybe it's a Hendon Hooker. Maybe it's someone else. Whoever the Raiders decide is that guy that they feel more comfortable with. So that's what I got for you for segment number 1 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast, kind of news and notes of the day. Coming up in segment number 2, we're going to talk about real life and how that really is what matters. And when there's all this fighting and bickering about Derek Carr and the organization and who's to blame for this, that, and the other, why it really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. We'll do that after I tell you about the title sponsor of the show, which is LinkedIn Jobs. As a small business owner or hiring manager, you know that success in 2023 all depends on the team members you surround yourself with. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. With LinkedIn Jobs, you can hire qualified candidates more efficiently by matching open roles with people who have the skills, values, and experiences to help you achieve your goals. LinkedIn Jobs helps you quickly attract qualified candidates to your open jobs with targeting tools. They go beyond resume data by using insights from your job post, company, and their 875 million member profiles to put your post in front of the most qualified candidates. Identify the most qualified candidates on LinkedIn Jobs and connect with them fast and for free. LinkedIn Jobs makes it easy to screen and rate applicants based on your job qualifications, all on one platform. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hiring versus leading competitors. What you got to do right now, choose LinkedIn Jobs to help you find that qualified candidate. If you want to talk to, all you got to do is post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. All right, Raider Nation, here we go. Segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast, again on this Friday, January 20th, 2023. Got a lot to talk about here in this segment. We'll try to keep it tight, not try to go on too long. But, you know, there's been a lot of conversation, obviously, with the transitions that are going on in the Raiders organization. Obviously, Derek Carr, after 9 years with the team, you know, not going to be with the team this next season. Of course, he's still on the Raiders roster right now. But, you know, 99.9% chance that either they'll trade him or they'll end up flat out releasing him by February 15th, and he'll go find another job. So we've had so many people call in and talk about, you know, the team did him dirty. We had someone call in and say that they spat in his face. And look, I've been trying to keep it real cool and real chill about it. I realize that people are upset because he's a guy that's been with the team for so long. He stabilized the quarterback position. He's a really good dude and went through some really hard times with the silver and black. But I've also said that, look, it's the NFL. It's a business. I don't consider anyone that had a job for 9 years and, you know, really had a job in the NFL for 9 years as the face of the franchise, the quarterback of the franchise. He leaves the organization with his health. He leaves the organization with, you know, so very well paid. He's going to have an opportunity to go and play somewhere else where he picks. He has a no-trade clause, so he gets to control his own destiny as opposed to sending him to Timbuktu just to go play because that's more convenient for the organization. I mean, he's got a lot going for him. He had his church ceremony, his church sermon that he did over the past weekend. I did not go there. It was not a media session type thing for me. I thought that, you know what, that's going to the church. I got more respect for the church than that, right? I know a lot of people that went. I know a lot of people that filmed it, put it out on Twitter. I actually saw some of it based off of Twitter, but I just felt like that wasn't a place that I should just show up and pull out my recorder and start recording the audio just so I can have some content for, you know, my show. I wasn't trying to use that kind of a setting for, you know, clicks and podcast listens or downloads. It's just not who I am. Again, I knew that this was going to be one of these situations. He's one of those guys that has really split the fan base. And it's like everyone is at everyone's throats. And I've been trying to let everyone know that, man, it's just not that serious. This guy's in a really good position. As he mentioned at his church sermon, he's in a really good position. He's not doing bad. He's got his family. You know, the biggest thing that was a concern for him was, you know, when he didn't know if his son was going to make it, when his son was really ill and was in the 559 at Children's Hospital, Valley's Children's Hospital. And he was fighting for his life, and he pulled through, you know, thanks to the strength of Derek Carr's faith. That kind of stuff is important. So I use that to transition into my next conversation because if you look at the calendar and you've been rocking with me for a while, you probably know that this day is coming up. It's January 20th. On January 22nd in 2020, I lost my son. My son passed away by a car accident, and that's not anyone's fault but the car accident, right? I mean, it was a car accident. It wasn't, you know, nothing. I'm not trying to get anyone to feel sorry for me. I don't want you to feel sorry for me. But I say that because when people ask me why I don't get so mad at the organization, why am I not pissed off that the Raiders only won 6 games? And I keep saying that because life happens. Life is more important than what those guys at the Intermountain Healthcare Performance Center do. Life is more important than what those guys at Allegiant Stadium do. Yes, I want to see them win like everyone else. I mean, and my knowledge of the Raiders and my fact that I could conversate about the Raiders is the reason why I'm in Las Vegas doing what I do and enjoy what I'm doing. So I'm not trying to take away any of that. But what I will say is December 15th, 2019, if you remember that date, that was the final game in Oakland for the Raiders. They played the Jaguars. They lost that game. The refs blew it. We all know how that shook out. We had a huge Locked On Raiders podcast tailgate party. It was fantastic. It was my wife's first Raider game she had ever been to. Anna and Rob hooked up some tickets. We sat in the black hole. Everything was great, right? Someone stole a chair and ran out of the Coliseum with it, and security was chasing them and scraped my wife's arm, and her Raider hoodie to this day still has a hole in it, and her arm got a nice little scratch on it. She was like, oh, I got a battle wound from Oakland. That was all fantastic. That was December 15th, 2019. Well, we had been in Oakland for a couple days. Remember, we had been living in Texas. We've only been here on the West Coast and in Las Vegas since, 2021? July of 2021. So back in 2019, we were still living in Texas. I hadn't seen my son Kimani in a while. I hadn't seen him. And he called me on December 14th, and we were there in the Bay Area. Matter of fact, we were about to go to Anna and Rob's house a little bit later on that evening. And we were talking about music. He was going to the recording studio because he was, putting together music. And thanks to my guy, Mikey the Barber in Sacramento, actually was able to put out his album, even though he's already passed away. But Mikey the Barber pulled some strings and was able to get my son's CD put out or project put out. I mean, I guess it's not CDs anymore, but you get the gist of it. Was able to put the work that he was able to put, the little work that he did, he was able to put out. And I thank Mikey the Barber for that. I thought that was awesome and probably the least that I could do. And like I said, Mikey went out of his way to make that happen. So I definitely appreciate that. But I talked to him, and we were talking about music, and then I said, well, hey, what are you doing? And he was like, oh, I'm about to go to the studio. And I was like, oh, okay, well, you want to link up? We're here in the Bay right now. You want to link up? You're in Modesto. I could drive a couple hours and come see you. And he's like, well, we could just do it later. We could do it later. I know, I know you're going to go to your friend's house, and I'm going to go to the studio and hang out with my friends. We could just catch up later. Remember, he lives in California. I lived in Texas at the time. So what I should have done as a responsible father, and again, not trying to make you feel bad for me, as a responsible father, I should have said, no, I'm in California. I'm in the Bay. At the very least of the day, I'm going to come out there and see you right now. Make sure I come see you because I haven't seen you in a long time. At the very end, just give you a hug, say I love you, whatever the case may be. Instead, I just said, all right, that's cool. I'll get you a flight. You can fly to Texas, hang out with us for a couple of weeks. It's all good. And then we went on to Anna and Rob's house and had a great time, went to the Raider game the next day. Met a lot of Locked On Raider podcast listeners, and I definitely appreciate that. Some that I'm still friends with to this day. It's awesome. Well, that week that I was going to fly him out to Texas never came because a little bit after, a little bit over a month later, I'm getting the call at 2, 3, 4 in the morning from his mom letting me know that he passed away in a car accident. All I had to do was not focus on myself, not focus on the Raiders, not focus on having a good time, but focus on being a dad, a father, and just saying, no, I want to insist on seeing my son. And I didn't. I just let it slip away because, he's going to go hang out with his friends. I'm going to go hang out with my friends. It's cool. Not a big deal. There's always tomorrow. Well, Raider Nation is not always tomorrow. You don't know if there's always going to be tomorrow. I end the show every time I end the show. I say, take care of yourself, take care of your family, love on your family, because I mean that. I mean that to my core. Whenever anyone in my family leaves the house, the last thing I tell them is be safe. And I know that they get there like, oh gosh, here he goes again. But I mean that because when your kids leave the house, leave the door, or your wife leaves the door, or your husband leaves the door, whoever your significant other is, you don't know that they're going to return. So you want to make sure that you have that time. That week that I was going to hang out with my son never came. And I promise you right now, as much as I want to see the Raiders hoist the Lombardi, they don't never have to win again if I can get him back. I promise you. That's what matters. So when people call in and get so angry and it's like, oh, you're trying to tote the company line, or oh, you're afraid to speak on this, or why aren't you calling out Josh McDaniels? For what? Why am I going to call out for what? When people call in and say Derek Carr was done dirty, the organization spat in his face. No, you know what's dirty? What's done dirty is the fact that my son was alive for 20 years and I didn't take advantage of the time he was alive. That's dirty. That's dirty. I had 20 years that I could have enjoyed every minute with him and I didn't because of whatever reason. But obviously I didn't focus on him as much as I should have. And now I can't have that time. That's dirty. You know what's dirty is that his mom has to worry about, or has to stress off of, has to be sad, has to cry every time she thinks about her son not being around, which, oh, by the way, her son was like her best friend. More than just his friend. And it's just, You have kids, you know that most of the time they're probably like your best friend as well. That's dirty, right? The fact that I'm so good at what I do when it comes to podcasts and working and radio and all this other stuff, what I'm really good at is what I'm really good at. What I'm not really good at is what I'm not really good at. That's dirty, right? That's why I don't get all up in arms. And so when you say and get mad because I'm not sitting here pounding the table and fighting for Derek Carr and yelling at Mark Davis and this, that, and other, and they suck and all that, because it's a game. It is a game. It's not real life, right? Derek Carr is going to be fine. He had 9 years. He got paid a lot of money. He's got his health. He's got his family. He's got his faith. He's got his option of where he's going to go work next. He's going to be fine. He's good. There's been other players, great players from organizations across all sports that have been traded that made people go, what? What? I can't believe that happened. But to the point where you're infighting and screaming and yelling and all that, no. So when I don't overreact and get upset, that's why. Because real life happens. When I don't get super mad when the Raiders lose, I don't anymore. I used to be that guy. They used to be around family and they didn't like being around me when the Raiders lost. I don't do that anymore because real life happened. And I realize that, you know what, there's so many other things that are more important than just what that football team does. I'm not gonna hang on the edge of my seat everything of like, well, this team, if they don't win, my whole week's gonna suck. Like, I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna do it to me, and I'm not gonna do that to the ones around me. I blew it with one of my kids. I'm not gonna blow it again, right? I beat myself up all the time. You have no idea. I know I put on a big, strong, tough face and smile and have a great time and laugh a lot, and that's all great. But in my heart, I know I blew it. I blew it. And that is done dirty, right? And it's the craziest thing, and I'll wrap it up with this. I'm here in Las Vegas right now. Guess where Kimani's favorite city in America was? Las Vegas. Where he wanted to be more than anything for his 21st birthday is right here in Las Vegas. To the point where, well, he never made it to 21. His mom came to Las Vegas to party for him on his 21st birthday because that's what he wanted. Never quite made it there. She partied for him. I'm here every day living in Las Vegas for him. Every single day I walk out that house, I think of him. I'm going to work with him on my mind because this is the city that he loved. This is where he wanted to be. This is what he wanted to do. So that's why I don't get up in arms. That's why I don't point the fingers and say, oh, this, none of that. Because it's, at the end of the day, it's a game. And if sometimes we take a step back and start caring about what really matters in life as much as we care about this game and what these players that are okay with what they've got going on, I know they have real life issues as well, but they'll all tell you at the end of the day, man, you know, like Davante Adams said just the other day, when the season wrapped up, he said, you know, hey, my family don't care about Davante Adams, the wide receiver. They care about Davante Adams, the husband, Davante Adams, the dad. You know, yeah, they feel bad when I lose, but you know what? They tell me leave that stuff at the locker room. Because when you get home, you're now Davante the father, Davante the husband. And that's what it should be about. And I'm still trying to learn that myself. Even at my age of 46, I still haven't figured it out. So I engage. I'll respond when people tweet at me and throw all kind of mud my way, and that's fine. And like I said, I don't want you to feel sorry for me. Please don't. I'm fine. Life is good. But there's always other things that are just as important as a football team winning games. So guess what? The Raiders are going to move on. Derek Carr is going to move on. They're going to be fine. The organization will be fine, and he'll be fine. But at the end of the day, if you had an opportunity to ask him, you know what he'll tell you? He's got his health. He's walking away from a very dangerous job after 9 years with one organization. It's not like he had to move year to year to year to year to year. He got paid well. He's on his third contract. His family's doing great. They'll always be doing great. And everyone's good. And he's still got an opportunity to go work wherever he wants, where he chooses to. It's going to be okay. So the whole back and forth, it always gets old and gets tiring. And I don't go into detail of it, but coming up on Sunday will be, you know, the actual date, January 22nd, when my son passed away. So it's going to be a day that's going to be emotional. It's going to be, you know, near and dear to my heart, just like his birthday is September 19th. Every time that comes around, it's always Kimani's game. Well, obviously the Raiders aren't playing, so it's not Kimani's game. But he's still in my heart. I have no problem talking about him. I will always talk about him. That's the very least I could do. I could talk about the Raiders this much. I sure could talk about my son. And I know there's going to be a lot of folks that aren't going to like this episode and probably be upset and probably haven't even listened this far. And that's okay. That's fine. But this is me. This is who I am. And this is what matters. And if you think about it, you think back in your life, there's probably stuff that's going on that really matters more than who's the quarterback for the Raiders, or who are they going to pick at number 7 overall, or if they won that last game of the year, or, you know what I mean? Like, I'm sure we could all put it in perspective, and sometimes we need a little help putting things in perspective. So that's all I got for you for segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Just wanted to show that love to my son who passed away on January 22nd, 2020. Segment number 3, your calls and texts straight off that Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line, 707-654-4693. Before I get to that, though, I will tell you about Built Bar. Built Bar is, well, a really good taste of protein bar. If you need a snack for whatever, if you're at work and you're just trying to get through that last couple hours, maybe you're working a little overtime, or maybe, you know, you're outside, you got a little activity going, you got a hoop game going, or you're about to play in a football game, who knows, whatever you got, whatever activity it is, and you want to have that healthy snack, maybe that was your New Year's resolution to eat healthy, and you just need something for a snack. You've been eating all your meals, your meal prepping and all that. You're doing good, but wait, what happens when you need a snack? Well, Built Bar could be the way you go. There's many different flavors to choose from. There's many different styles. They've got granola bars. They've got Built Bars with marshmallows in it. They got Built Bars that are just the regular OGs. They've got family packs. They've got Build-A-Boxes. I mean, you can mix and match whatever you want to do. You can order online at Built.com. The whole website right now is 15% off. Or if you're in the Las Vegas area, you can go into Smith's. You go into Sam's Club. They have 4-pack boxes. They have 13-pack boxes. There's all kind of different ways now to get your hands on Built Bars, just in case you don't want to order them and then wait for them to come through the mail. You actually just want to walk into the store and get them. Like I said, in the Las Vegas area, Smith's is good. Sam's Club is good. They've got them right there on the shelves. You can go pick them up today. Or no matter where else you're at, you can always hit up Built.com. The whole website right now is 15% off. Again, check it out, Built.com, or go in the store at Smith's or Sam's Club. All right, Raider Nation, here we go. Segment number 3 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Your calls and text straight off that Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line, 707-654-4693. Let's start things off with Wine Country Raider. He's calling to talk about what he thinks the Raiders need to do this offseason and where their priorities should be. Here he is, Wine Country Raider.
What's up, Q? This is Wine Country Raider. Just calling about what I think we need to do this offseason. You know, I grew up watching the Raiders and being a dominant team. We need to build a defense like we had, that year we went to the Super Bowl, with guys like Torrey James. We had Charles Woodson, Rod Woodson, Napoleon Harris, Romanowski. That's what I'm trying to see as a fan. I think we have, that's what we got to focus on. The quarterback situation is obvious, but we need to build a defense and have a dominant defense like, we've had in the past. We could have, the best guy on the field as a quarterback, but if we don't have, a defense, it's nothing. So that's just what I think. I think we need to build a defense, have a crazy, savage defense like San Francisco, and then, we could get a good quarterback and build from there. Just win, baby.
Thank you so much for the call, my man. I appreciate you, and I agree, man. I've been talking about the defense for a really long time, and it's funny. There's so many priorities. Not priorities. There's so many areas of this team that they need to address this offseason, and it's crazy because it feels like until the domino drops of who the quarterback's going to be, that everything else is not a priority. But the defense is a priority, and the offensive line is a priority as well. They might have to get the defense and the offensive line straight before a quarterback says, yeah, I want to go play there. It's going to be interesting to see how it all shakes out. But obviously they need a quarterback. Obviously they need the O-line, and that defense has been long overdue. They need to address the defense. Thank you for that call. I do appreciate you. Next up, got a text from North Logan Raider. Hey, Q, North Logan Raider here. Just wanted to give some insight from an expert like you. What if the Raiders got Aaron Rodgers? He could be reunited with Devontae Adams. He hates it at Green Bay, and he has mentioned between two teams he'd like to go to. One is the Raiders. Also, he likes to move. Not a ton, and he's a younger veteran than Brady. That's from North Logan Raider. Thank you for the text. I never heard him say he hates Green Bay, and I never heard him say that he, was thinking about playing with the Raiders. I never heard any of that, but he does have the connection with Devontae Adams. He is younger than Brady. He's a damn good quarterback, and if you get him, for the next couple years, that gives you the opportunity to draft a quarterback and let him sit behind Aaron Rodgers, just like Jordan Love is sitting behind him right now. And this time, he wouldn't be upset about the guy sitting behind him because he'd already know that, look, I'm here on the 2 years max anyway, and then that guy's going to take over. So it's not like he feels like he's still in his prime, and all of a sudden you're going and drafting his replacement. So thank you so much for that. I do appreciate you. Next up, got a call from Raider Big C in L.A. He's calling to talk about Carr and a piece that he read about Carr he wants to share his thoughts on. Here he is, Raider Big C in L.A.
Hey, Q, it's Raider Big C from L.A. Want to touch on one more thing with this Carr situation before I finally move on. And I think this might be helpful for anyone that was a Carr lover, Carr hater, or in between. I see here Hondo Carpenter. I believe he works at your station. Correct me if I'm wrong. But he has put a great article on SI, pretty much stating, and I'm quote, "After you read this, my goal is to not be happy for one side or the other, but my goal is to tell you the truth so you can learn how complicated this last season was and why this is worse is better for Derek Carr and the Raiders." Now, I highly suggest people to go ahead and read it through. It's quite long, but read it through. What he does is a breakdown of when the end of the season and Josh McDaniels has arrived, talked about how McDaniels loved Carr, how they love the person, and then talked about going through the season, the ups and the downs, and more importantly, where the divide was. One thing that he mentioned, that Derek Carr put a wall up. It seems to me that Derek Carr was not able to accept the criticism of what McDaniels had put everybody at the standard of, I'm calling you out, no matter what. He even mentioned one point that he cut out the water boy for not being out there in the right time when it's a timeout. So what I'm getting at, I highly suggest people go read the article. It does shed a lot of light on what happened this past season with Derek Carr. It is what it is. He's going to move on. We're going to move on. But I will shed one light real quick on the quarterback situation. I agree with you. I'm behind in your podcast, but I agree with you. Just got to make it right. Just get us somebody that's going to make us a winner, because that's what we need. We need a winner. We need someone that can understand and play to the level. You can have the passion, you can have all this stuff, but in the end, we need someone that can make the plays and do what you need to do. That's all I got, to keep the good work. I'll catch you in here and there. Very big piece from LA out.
Thank you so much for the call, my man. I appreciate the feedback. And, yeah, that article that you're talking about, Hondo Carpenter put it out on SI.com about basically what went wrong with Derek Carr this past year in Las Vegas. And a lot of people have asked me to talk about it. The thing about it is I didn't talk to the people Hondo talked to. I didn't. All right? No player has ever said anything like what was quoted. I read the article, but stuff that was quoted in that article, no player ever said that to me. So I don't have the knowledge to go and say, oh, yeah, that's factual, or even say, no, that's not factual, because, again, I don't know that. A lot of people have hit me up on Twitter. I can't believe you won't say nothing about it. I don't know what you want me to say. I'm not going to ever give you any lies. I'm not going to tell you something that I don't know is fact. If I don't know, I'm not going to speak on it. So I don't know. I understand that you could appreciate the article. I know Vinny has spoke with GM Dave Ziegler, and Hondo's spoken with GM Dave Ziegler. So those guys would have a much better idea than I would. So I stay out of that. When I talk to Dave Ziegler, you know what Dave Ziegler texted me and talked about me about? That he heard me on Freddie and Fitzsimmons on ESPN Radio, and that's one of his favorite shows. That's what our conversation was about, radio. It wasn't about what went wrong with Derek Carr. If he wants to talk to me at some point about that, we'll talk about it. And when we do, I'll come back and say, hey, this is what the GM said. But that's because I'll have exact knowledge. I'm not going to interpret someone else's conversations and then all of a sudden try to say, all right, this is real or this is not. That would be doing a disservice to you, and that'd definitely be doing a disservice to me. And I'm not going to do either one of those. So thank you so much for that. I do appreciate you. Next up, got a text from Pomona, Pimp, and Raider. Just got a couple more. Good morning, Q. We got to bring Tom Brady and Gronk. With them on our roster, more studs will come in free agency. This will allow us to focus on the draft and get some defensive and offensive studs in the draft. I truly believe we get a quarterback on the same mindset as McDaniels, this team will get to the Super Bowl. In the article Hondo wrote, the players love McDaniels' mindset, just need the missing piece. That is Tom Brady. That's from Pomona, Pimpin, Raider. Thank you for the text. And the one thing I can say about the mindset from the players that I've talked to that you've heard on this podcast, like a Max Crosby or a Nate Hobbs or a Josh Jacobs or a Devontae Adams, all those guys that I've talked to in the locker room following games, everyone said that they were definitely down with Josh McDaniels. But, I mean, could that be just speak in the locker room because, well, that's what's got to be said? Or is that how they truthfully feel? It sounded to me like they were all on board with Josh McDaniels. So, I'll give you that, and I'll give Hondo that. But as far as the other stuff in that article, I was never privy to that. You never heard that on any of the conversations that I brought to the podcast. And until I'm the one with that information or that sound or whatever, and I bring it to the show, there's nothing I can speak on that. But I understand what you're saying about with Tom Brady and Gronk. It always makes me nervous because Brady is so old, and you want to know, you always wonder, like, when is the shoe going to drop? When is the bottom going to fall out? You would hate for them to make a move for him, and then that's when the bottom falls out. Then all of a sudden you're looking up and like, damn, well, now what, right? So there's that. But thank you for that text, my man. I do appreciate you. We'll close out the show with this. JTV in the 209, he's calling to send a message to Raider Nation about the whole car situation and trying to put things into perspective. There he is, JTV in the 209.
Yo, what's up, Q? It's your boy JTV from the 209. You can disregard my last call. I had to cut it short because my boss was calling me. But, yo, man, all of Raider Nation needs to look at themselves in the mirror and realize that the Raiders did not do Derek Carr dirty whatsoever. All this, the organization spat on Derek Carr. Like, what are you guys talking about? This guy was here for 9 years. We paid him over $100 million. This man doesn't have to work a day in his life for the rest of his life. How are we saying that we did him dirty? Like, I don't understand why people are saying that. We did everything for this guy. Maybe not everything, but this guy was well taken care of. Hell, if this was probably another organization, they would have probably got rid of Derek Carr after the first 4 years, man. We had 5 more years after that. And having to deal with every offseason, all these talks every single year talking about how we always needed a new quarterback. Like, everybody was saying we need a new quarterback. Since the day we probably got him, people were saying we need a new quarterback. Like, I just don't understand. People need to realize that the Raider organization took care of Derek Carr. It's a done deal. This man's out the way. Let's move on because we were Raider fans before Derek Carr got here, and we'll still be Raider fans after that man leaves. That's all I got to say. Peace out, Q.
Thank you so much for the call, JTV. I appreciate you. Like I said, segment number 2, man, I realize people are fans. They really appreciate what Carr did, and that's cool. But sometimes I feel like people go way too far with it. Being done dirty and real-life issues is one thing, but the whole situation with Carr, in my opinion, was not done dirty. It was definitely not spat in his face. It's just – and I know people hear what they want to hear. I get it. But I've been nothing but respectful to Derek Carr. I'll be nothing but respectful to him. He knows that from my conversations I've had with him. He knows that. And I'm not saying that we talk like we're buddies, but I've had enough interactions with him to he knows that I've never disrespected him. I'll never disrespect him. Have no reason to. I don't disrespect really anybody, to be honest. As much heat as I be catching, especially on Twitter, I sure never disrespect anyone. Most of the time, I thank them for their time that they spend sending messages to me and call it a day. So, yeah, I think some people get so worked up. But, man, if you go back and look, like Kenny Stabler got traded, right? Marcus Allen got sat down for a year and then moved, right? Khalil Mack got traded. I mean, there's so many players that have come and gone from not just the Raiders, but just organizations in general. But, man, it's like Derek Carr, and it's you're either hate the organization because they did that or you love them because they did that, right? It's like no in between. Like, you can't just say, hey, this is a healthy break. I used this example on my radio show on Thursday. I said, man, have you ever seen that couple where you're like, man, both those guys are my friends. The guy and the girl are my friends. I really like them, but I know that they shouldn't be together, right? I mean, I kind of feel like that's how this whole thing should just end. Like, hey, it's time that both parties broke up, and that's okay. They're still cool people, still love them, just love them better apart. Go out about their business and do their own thing. It's just how it happens sometimes. But man, you can't tell nobody that because they'll get angry about something. So I mean, it is what it is. And again, I appreciate everyone for the feedback, good or bad. Doesn't matter. Appreciate the calls, texts, tweets, whatever the case may be. Appreciate that. So, Raider Nation, have a fantastic weekend. Enjoy the playoff games, the divisional round. I think they're going to be a lot of fun games. Sunday, I'll be doing a little ESPN national radio, but I'll also be doing it with a heavy heart. Again, nothing but, love out to my son, Kimani. His mom, I feel for her because I know that she's dealing with the situation as well. And most likely she's probably dealing with the situation by herself. That sucks. So, just like I said, man, sometimes just think about what really matters in the grand scheme of things. Like what, as far as you're concerned, what really, really matters when it's all said and done. And if the Raiders are the end all be all for you, then hey, have at it. But for me, I can still be a fan. I can still do my job, still love doing my job, and realize that there's bigger things in life than just what happens on the field with the silver and black. Until Monday, Raider Nation, take care of yourself, take care of your family, love on your family. Most importantly, as always, just win, baby.